Next is number 3, Manu M from University of Kerala, Department of Commerce. Accessibility and utilization of credit, a comparative study between banks and NBFCs.
Good morning. Respected distinguished members on the dais and their friends, myself is Manu M. I'm research scholar, Department of Commerce, University of Kerala, and my research topic is accessibility and utilization of credit, a comparative study between banks and non-banking finance companies. My research guide is Dr. Gabriel Simon Thattu, Professor, Department of Commerce, University of Kerala. As part of my introduction slide, the banking sector in India has been making effort to enhance financial inclusion with the active guidance of Reserve Bank of India. Then there are different policy initiation with the Reserve Bank of India, like nationalization of banks, private sector lending requirements. My statement of the problem. Due to business and viability compulsions, bank did not pursue credit offtake in rural and semi-urban areas. It seems that most credit-starved segment of the society has remained out of favor with banks in terms of credit delivery. In this context, NBFCs are increasingly filling this gap left by banks in rural and semi-urban areas. Also, the NBFCs helps in expanding the reach of credit delivery to the far corners of the country, especially to the underserved or unorganized sector. In this context, the research wants to make a comparative study between banks and non-bank finance companies especially in Kerala, in terms of accessibility and utilization of credit. Then these are the main objectives of my study. First one is to examine the extent to which the credit available from the banks and non-banking finance companies are accessible to the unorganized sector. The second one is to analyze the extent of utilization of credit offered by the banks and non-bank finance companies among the unorganized sector in Kerala. And third one is to identify the problems faced by the people in the unorganized sector in the accessibility and utilization of credit offered by banks and non-bank finance companies. And next one is to ascertain the consequences of non-availability of formal credit to the informal sector. And the last one is to suggest ways and means for improvement in credit offtake. Then this is my methodology. As part of the methodology side, my study is designed as descriptive and analytical based on the survey method. Then I use both secondary as well as primary data for the study. Then secondary data will collect from various journals, articles, thesis, and government websites, etc. Then the primary data will collect from the response of unorganized sector in Kerala through structured interview schedule. Then my population is unorganized sector of Kerala. Then for drawing sample, I use the following steps. During the first stage, then I identify the banks and NBFCs from the public sector and private sector. And the second stage, then identify beneficiaries of banks and NBFCs from both private and public sector. And during the third stage, I identify non-beneficiaries of banks and NBFCs from the private sector and the public sector. This is my sample structure. For drawing sample, my study is limited to Kerala state, so the entire Kerala is divided into three regions, like southern region, central region, and northern region. Then from each region, I selected a district. From that district, then I select banks and NBFCs from both public sector and private sector. From public sector and private sector, I select beneficiaries and non-beneficiaries. Then the total number of beneficiaries, then I would like to make a sample is 50 beneficiaries from public sector and 20 beneficiaries. 50 beneficiaries from the public sector and the 20 beneficiaries from the public sector. Then from private sector also I select 50 beneficiaries and 20 beneficiaries, and it is same as NBFCs. And I use 50 beneficiaries as my experimental group and 20 beneficiaries as my control group. This is about my research topic, and I just now completed my first year, and I read through several articles, thesis, and also I identify variables. I hope that within the next 1 year I can complete my first 3 chapters and questionnaire. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Manu. Actually, this is again a very ambitious topic. You are very clear about the research design in terms
terms of where from you need to collect data, etc. So to that extent, I think there is a lot of clarity. But a few points you may like to keep in mind. Your first objective is to examine the extent of accessibility and also utilization of credit. See, what do you mean by the extent? That needs to be concretized. What you actually mean by accessibility and how would you measure that? This point you have to keep in mind very clearly. Because extent, then it's somewhat an ambiguous word. Of course, to listen to that's quite fine, but when you want to quantify that, it's not an easy task. Then second, you want to highlight the problems that are being faced by the borrowers in the unorganized sector and what are the consequences if the present trend continues. Then the ways and means of solving the problem, that's fine as a, yeah. Then here, a few more, points you need to remember. First, how do you select your respondent? Who are your respondents? Are they borrowers from the unorganized sector? If so, how would you identify them from a very geographically well spread state like Kerala? That is one thing. Then, first, are you able to compare the non-bank financial companies with the banks? How are they comparable? Who are the borrowers from non-bank finance companies? What is their profile? Do they have any commonality? So these are the things you need to examine before you actually finalize. In my view, you can very safely cut down the NBFCs. Otherwise, at the PhD level, it becomes unmanageable. Okay? There is no point in doing a kind of a quick and half-baked kind of thing. You concentrate only on banks, maybe public sector banks and private sector banks, and then see the extent of accessibility and utilization of credit. In my view, that would be good enough. Or you may even give up banks and exclusively concentrate on NBFCs, on which literature is somewhat less. Because on banks, so many people have done. The third comment is that you want to do this study using both primary and secondary data. Can you manage within the limited period of time? Because primary data, first identification of respondent itself is a problem. When you go to a bank, how do you know that X and Y they are borrowers? Banks will not give you that information, isn't it? And same is the case with the NBFC, right? So please keep these limitations in mind before you actually proceed to the field. Okay.
I think the comparability, you have made notes from what sir has said. Okay. I think you have to reduce the size of your own research and bring it to a manageable size. Sir. You want to say and ask anything? Fine. Okay, thank you then. Next is Janaki from University of Madras, Department of Commerce. The study on challenges faced by public sector banks in India.
I'm Janaki from University of Madras, Department of Commerce. So I'm doing under my guidance supervisor is Dr. S. Guruswamy, Professor and Head, Department of Commerce, University of Madras. So my area is, as presented, a study on the challenges faced by public sector banks in India. Since I have just registered like 1.5 months before, I didn't narrow down my topic yet. And I don't know whether I need to do a comparative study. I didn't decide yet, but based on my study, like for a month, so I have narrowed down or I have found some objectives or some statement of the problems. So we all know what is banking and what the financial duties of banking and the responsibilities of banking they do. But besides that, bank face some of the global and the local challenges. Bank face some of the challenges. So my study would be assuming the significance in the light of those micro and macro challenges faced by public sector banks in India. Next slide. So macro challenges, what I have taken into consideration is globalization challenges like Brexit and the challenges posed by Basel IV. So how does these challenges impacts micro level in the public sector banks is what I need to find out among technological challenges. And technological challenges, so can I explain? Technological challenges in the phase what I took is that many of the rural areas, the technology adopted by the Indian banking sector, the rural areas face difficult to access to those technologies. So the challenges or the suggestions which I give should support even the rural areas to accept to the technologies which have been adopted by the banking industry. And second, I take competition challenges. Many private sector banks accept and do the same financial functions performed by the public sector banks. So in the case of globalization, why can't our public sector banks can have a very big place, the public sector banks, the private sector banks too. So third would be my non-performing assets. Non-performing assets plays a very big role in the banking sector, and to be in fact that is the very big challenge faced by the banking sectors. So what can I, in my thesis, say my contribution to reduce the non-performing assets and corporate governance management plays also very important role because human resource management is very less now in the banking sector is what I have, reviewed, the literature is what I have reviewed told. So I have included that as a factor. And followingly, risk management, banking security, and the reduced volume of business comes under the non-performing assets whereby that leads to reduced profits, capital adequacy, and reduced volume of business results in deposits, loans, and number of accounts, etc. So through this, my objectives would be to know the perception of bank managers and bank employees. Only through them I came to know like what are the challenges. Not only through them, but they are also one of the reference I can get. And to identify the weakness in the quantum of deposits and lending of public sector banks in India, and to examine how weak the volume of the businesses of the banks are in respective of globalization, and why there is a decline in the total number of accounts, and the quality of the bank assets with reference to gross and net NPAs, and how extent the capital of adequacy becomes in respective of NPAs. So, next slide. The methodologies. In case of Brexit, I can do a case study because it's an event. So I didn't mention it there, but I'm planning to do it. And my data will be according to primary data and the secondary data. The primary data will be collected through the Wellframe questionnaire, and the secondary data is from the journals and the magazines and RBI. And sampling frame, I haven't decided the sampling frame whether to go only with the Chennai city or with some other rural areas because one of my objective faces rural areas, so I'm planning to do it. And random sampling is what I have planned to adopt to my study. And data analysis, I'm planning to do SPSS, and I have a question regarding data analysis, sir, so I can include it after the presentation. And next slide. The progress made so far is I'm recently studying my review of literatures, and side by side I'm doing for the conceptual frameworks also. The plan would be I didn't finalize my topic yet, which means narrow downing my topic to some specific factors like NPA and what is the next factor contributes so much challenges to the public sector banks. And I would work with the writing review of literatures, and second 6 months I need to finalize my questionnaire data collection. Proceeding third 6 month, I will do my data analysis and interpretation, submit my synopsis, and final 6th month, I will do my findings and conclusion. So suggestions.
Thank you for a very clear presentation. Actually here, you have classified the challenges into two broad categories, rather appropriately. One, challenges in view of globalization, and challenges Basel IV norms. That's clear. So then, in the ambit of Narsimham Committee report, the challenges are very clear. That is the competition within the banks, then capital adequacy norms, so many things are there. And Basel norms are much more stringent, as you move down from 1 to 4. Okay? So these are the challenges at the macro level, at the level of the bank. Then you have come down to the challenges from the point of view of the borrowers or the customers. Okay? But if you look at the challenges from the borrower's angle, they are totally different kind of challenges. But you said some challenges due to technological skills, etc. But that is an area where I think you should not enter, because what kind of questions you will ask, you will put to a particular respondent, like what kind of technological challenges do you face. Actually, you will be confusing the respondent. Your challenges should be confined to the macro challenges at the level of the bank. So your respondent should be mainly the senior management at the branch level and at the level of those working within a branch. Accordingly, you can select a few public sector banks, a few private sector banks, and also a few foreign banks, maybe operating within Tamil Nadu. Okay? Then through schedule, you can gather information about their perceptions about challenges. Then from secondary data, you can analyze, in view of globalization, competition, and also the risk, growth of NPAs, what kind of problems that banks face, etc. So my suggestion would be that either you approach challenges from bank as a unit, or approach the challenges with borrower as the unit. If you consider borrower as the unit, then the very nature of challenges will undergo a change. Okay? But trying to do both is not feasible at the level of a PhD thesis. Okay? Thank you.
So what question I have is, I am going to select some of the public sector banks, like according to this. So if I include private sectors and foreign sectors, I'm going to select like few of the banks and I'm going to study the performance over 10 years, something like that. So can I run panel data analysis in this?
You can have a panel of public sector banks, a panel of private sector banks, and a panel of foreign banks.
Okay.
Suppose if you combine all the three into a very big panel, you may not be able to, draw any inference. You can do panel data analysis, that is good. Identify the parameters, create a panel and go ahead with that. But a separate panel for each of the categories of banks, you can do that. But for that you have to pick up some panel data models. Thank you.
Sir, one more doubt. So there are also some globalization challenges like Trump, please see what he has to do. So protectionism of his members, so that other employees are not being employed there. So does that anyway come under the challenge for Indian banks? Can I include that in my study as?
See, this Trump and the threats of Trump cannot be systematically studied. See, tomorrow Trump may tell you something else. See, once you formulate a PhD problem, you should not be influenced by the events in newspapers, what Trump had said or what RBI governor has said, etc. Somewhere you have to draw a line and do some serious investigation. You can ignore that.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Good afternoon to 100% here. I am Kribanandan, PhD research scholar, Department of Commerce, University of Madras in Chennai. My research supervisor, Dr. Yuvraj, Assistant Professor, Department of Commerce, University of Madras in Chennai. My research topic is personal income and pattern of migration employees in Tamil Nadu. Now going on to introduction. Migration is commonly known as movement of a person from one country or state to another. Okay, my statement of the problem. Migration employees contribute much to the development of state economic by providing employees forced to various economic activities. Sometimes it is impossible due to scarcity of employees. Considering their importance in the economic and employment market of the state, it is essential to have a detailed idea about the impact of missions upon themselves. Thus, there is a wide gap in the world of literature, and current study is a challenge to fill the gap and to provide a comprehensive idea about their socio-economic profile, working, living conditions, personal income, employment pattern, and economic impact of migration and impact of their persons upon the employment market of Tamil Nadu. Next slides. My research questions: what are the patterns of migration and personal income of migration employees? Whether the migration provide more work than their native. Then whether the migration lead to considerable economic and financial development in the socio-economic status of migration employees. Next question: what are the factors influencing internal migration in Tamil Nadu? What are the major causes for the high mobility rate in internal migration in Tamil Nadu? And then what are the different problems faced by migrated employees in Tamil Nadu? And last questions: what are the initiatives taken by government to enhance the socio-economic status of the migrated employees in Tamil Nadu? Next slides. Objectives of study. My primary objective is to study the personal income and pattern of migration employees in Tamil Nadu. The secondary objectives: first one, to examine the demographic and socio-economic profiles of migrant employees in Tamil Nadu, and second one, to identify the various reasons for the migration in Tamil Nadu, and third one, to study the savings patterns and utilization remittance among migration employees in Tamil Nadu, and fourth one, to identify the factor determining the mobility rates and internal migration in Tamil Nadu, and last objectives, to suggest a measure for the improvement of the standard of living and working conditions of migrant employees in Tamil Nadu. Next slide. My hypothesis: there is no significant relationship between personal income and employees' patterns of migrations. And second one, there is no significant relationship between personal income and socio-economic and demographic profiles. And there is no significant relationship between personal income and savings patterns in migration employees. And fourth one, there is no significant relationship between employment patterns and socio-economic and demographic profiles. This last one, there is no significant relationship between employees' patterns and savings pattern in employees. My research methodologies: nature of the study in exploratory and analytical, primary data in survey methods, sampling method in convenient non-random sampling, sampling instrument structure questionnaire, sampling area is Tamil Nadu, sampling frame in migrated employees in Tamil Nadu. Statistical tools be used for the study: percentage analysis, descriptive analysis, t-test and parity test, chi-square test and factor analysis, cluster analysis, discriminative analysis, multiple linear regression, general linear model, and last one, structural equation model. Statistical software to be used: SPSS. And plan for the duration of the study: first 6 month in-depth literature review, preparing conceptual framework and preliminary studies. Second 6 month questionnaire scalings and designing, pre-testing, validating the questionnaire secondary data analysis if necessary. Third 6 months and main data collection, editing, coding, and preparing the data for statistical analysis. And fourth 6 month analysis and interpretation and primary data, deriving the findings and suggestion conclusion and preparing the final drafts and submission of thesis. In current status of the research: during the past research period, an attempt has been made to understand the prevailing problem in migration employees. In review of literature has been carried related to migration employees problems, personal income and pattern of migration, social integration and national development. Further, a conceptual framework has been prepared to identify the migration employees. Any suggestions?
Okay. I think the first comment I would like to make is it is a very well structured presentation. Everyone should really use this structure. I would like to congratulate Kubandan for this. Yeah, thank you. The second point is quickly coming to the size of the whole. Your statement of problem is huge. The size of the research is huge. Coming back from the sample, do you want to take the entire Tamil Nadu? Okay, that is something you should consider. I am not sure. And the number of research questions, can you go to the research questions slide? There are too many research questions that you would like to answer, and this is also something you would like to reduce it to 3 or 4 research questions. And what are the patterns of employment and personal income? Where the migration provides more work? Whether migration led to considerable economic, and I would say in view of your statement of problem, research question 3 would be relevant, 1 would be relevant, and what are the major causes of high mobility? What are the different problems? What are the initiatives? I mean, you need to add, consider removing a few research questions and add 1 or 2 that have a direct bearing on the research problem. That is income and pattern of migration. That is something I would like to suggest, and otherwise I have no problem except with the sample. The sample is quite huge. Entire Tamil Nadu, how can you administer a survey instrument?
Construction worker and metro train worker.
No, but the entire Tamil Nadu
Yes,
state,
sir.
how will you do it? These are some of the questions that I have in my mind, and you may want to revisit the sample size. Take 1 district or 2 districts where migration is predominant.
4 districts.
Huh?
4 districts.
4
Yes,
districts. That I think that you should that should be based on some literature, and you should be able to look at some literature. I did not see any literature slides in your presentation. That's something that you have to. There is no review of literature I see as you have done. And what is the review of literature saying about where is about a researchable question in the area of income and migration? That is something you have not made in a presentation. That you have to look at it. Because right in the beginning, you have to do some review of literature. What review of literature have you done?
15 review of literature.
15. You have not presented that here. Okay, look at that and then come back to sample and the gaps and the research questions in view of some of my comments.
I agree with what Professor Anand has told. I have only a few basic clarifications. What is your definition of personal income? That is one. First, you have to clarify. Second, how do you identify migration employees? Actually, who is a migration employee? That you have not clearly defined anywhere. By migration employee, do you mean people coming from other states into Tamil Nadu in search of work in unorganized sector? Do you mean those people working under some project or some contractor or the other? Actually, who is your migration employee?
Migration employees is
Actually, whom do you call a migration employee? You may have something in mind, isn't it?
on place to another place movement. My
Give an example.
construction worker and metro train workers.
Hmm?
Labor, he is confining it.
And lower level employees.
That's what sir is asking.
Suppose now you take some particular district. in that district, more number of people may be engaged in construction work. In some other district, bricklayer, work people may be employed. In some metros, workers may be employed in metro projects, etc. So the nature of this migration depends from place to place. So you should first fix. I am only interested in the pattern of migration employees in metro construction, or only in construction of civil projects, something like that. Otherwise, the whole of Tamil Nadu, how do you pick up people? Becomes, okay? So the basic issue should be clarified. What is personal income? And who is a migration employee? Isn't it? So having clarified that, then what do you mean by pattern of migration? That is another question.
Type of internal migration, external migration.
That means what? Suppose someone from Bihar in search of work moves into Tamil Nadu. Okay? That is one type of migration. Are you considering people who are moving out of Tamil Nadu in search of work outside Tamil Nadu? Are you considering them?
No.
Hmm? So please,
I think the boy has some language problem. Why don't your friends from Tamil Nadu help him? And that is not able to communicate to you.
no, I think
Yeah, very
Yeah.
good presentation. Very good.
language problem is not the issue. Conceptualizing the. So please think over, Mr. Krupanandan. These are the basic issues. Then you can go to the hypothesis, which you have very clearly stated. You have also identified what methodological tools to be applied. That frame is very clear. You are well presented. But basic issues have to be clarified. Okay? Please take care. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
One suggestion to Upanandan and the others as well is, if you read the literature, if you precisely read Google search and read literature, publications, books and PhD dissertations relating to your topic, if you put your topic in the search and then search in good international refereed journals and good publications, then you will understand what the problem is, how to title your dissertation, how to write a statement and what is the research question. Everyone, this applies to everyone. You have to title it, and your title should be so clear that on reading the title one should be able to make out what is it that you are studying. That is very, very important. So if you read some literature on migration, then you will zero in precisely define your problem. What do you, like the sir has asked, what do you mean by pattern? Which migration employees? Is it construction or is it white collared employees migration, etc., etc. Then other things are quite clear. Hypothesis is clear, methods are clear, instruments are clear, and okay, that's all. Thank you.
I have 50 articles I was downloading, but now preparing the 13 article, my writing is okay, sir. Yes, sir.
You read them, then prepare your other, in view of the questions and clarifications that were given here.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. This is Anuja Shri from University of Madras. Research Scholar, Department of Commerce. We are talking about credit card frauds.
Good afternoon to one and all present here. I am Sanujashri PN from Department of Commerce, University of Madras. My supervisor is Dr. S. Guruswamy, Professor in Head, Department of Commerce, University of Madras. My topic of research is about credit card fraud, a study with reference to the credit card customers. Moving on to the statement of the problem. Customers are lifeblood of the banking industry. credit card fraud is inseparable part of the banking industry, and being a service-oriented one, banks have to understand the customer needs, awareness, satisfaction level, security issues and challenges. The second one is about booming of credit card industry given rise to massive credit card frauds, and that affects the customers and hampers the bank's goodwill. Third is about the multiple payments bills make the customers to credit card in the debt trap. The objectives of the study, impact of the credit card business on the bank profitability, to study the perception of the bank customers with regard to the credit card operations, to study the level of acquaintance of the bank customer with regard to the credit card frauds. The next is about the problem faced by the bank customers on account of the credit card frauds, to study the existing framework to control and minimize the occurrence of the credit card frauds in the Indian banking system. Hypothesis: there is no significant relationship between the various types of credit card frauds and its consequences. Second is about the level of awareness of credit card fraud and the perception. Third is about credit card usage and the occurrence of the credit card frauds. Significance of the study. Next slide is about the research methodology. Nature of the study is analytical and descriptive in nature. Primary data, a survey method has been adopted, and sampling instrument is structured questionnaire. Sampling method is purposive or judgment sampling. Sampling frame is credit card fraud users affected by the fraud, and sampling area is Chennai City. The current status of the research. The prevailing problems in the credit card and fraud made by the fraudster in the credit card. In-depth literature review has been carried related to the credit card fraud. Materials referred from the relevant topic undertaken to do research, and from the several magazines and websites. A conceptual framework has been adopted, and actually I have received one best paper award in this topic related to the customer perception on the credit card frauds. And in future, an attempt will be made to identify the various factors determining the fraudster in the credit card of banking industry. And next, then statistical tools to be used is percentage analysis, descriptive analysis, t-test, paired t-test, chi-square test, factor analysis, cluster analysis, discriminant analysis, multiple linear regression, general linear regression, and structural equational model. And statistical software would be used as Anamos.